Amen, amen, I say to you. So in other words, don't miss this. Amen, amen, I say to you. This is serious stuff coming. Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. And then, just to rub it in, for my flesh is real food. My blood is real drink. Now, the scholars point out to us something really interesting about this. The usual Greek word for the way human beings eat is phagein. It means to eat, like the way you'd gather around a table to eat. Jesus doesn't use that verb. Now, remember, he's been challenged. People say, this is gross what you're saying. It's objectionable. He's got every opportunity to soften the language. But instead, he turns up the heat. Unless you, and the verb he uses is trogein. You know what trogein means in Greek? To gnaw. Trogein is the way an animal eats. Gnaw. Unless you gnaw on the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you've got no life in you. And my flesh is real food. My blood is real drink. Ay, ay, ay. This is serious stuff here, huh? This is something really strange going on. Now, you're a first century Jew. You're aware of the great scriptural tradition. What are you aware of? Symbolic talk. There's symbolic talk all through the scriptures, right? In the Psalms and in the prophets. Think even of the symbolic actions of the prophets. You know, when God tells Ezekiel or Hosea or Jeremiah to do some funny thing, and then he explains the spiritual meaning of it, right? They knew all about symbolism. So if all he's saying here is, well, you know, yeah, just as you take in bread and wine, so you kind of take in my teaching or you take in my inspiration, it's like that. It's a symbol. I mean, who wouldn't get that? Who wouldn't find that, easy to understand? But when he lays this thing out the way he does, what do we hear? Because of this, many of Jesus' followers turned back and would not go with him anymore. And then that moment, I think, it's something almost frightening to me about this moment. So he asked the 12, and you, would you also like to leave? This is a kind of standing and falling point, isn't it? This teaching is like a watershed. It has been, from John 6 until the Pew Forum study, a stumbling block, a point of division, a kind of either you're with me or against me moment, isn't it? Now, as many point out, is this just a weird coincidence or a strange bit of providence? What verse is that I just read? It's John 6:66. It's John chapter 6, verse 66. Again, we didn't have chapter verse when this thing was written, but that's the way it worked out. My point is, if this was just symbol talk, I don't see why anybody would be all that upset about it, why they'd storm away and protest. But see, Jesus doesn't compromise or soften it or give in. He says, yeah, okay, are you going to leave me too? That's John 6. I think everybody, along, of course, with the institution narratives, it's the great ground for the Catholic insistence upon what we call the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. This is not some later invention.